On the radio, let's go. Welcome to KHEA Radio 99.5 FM. I'm joined by Dr. Aaron Chapa. Dr. Aaron Chapa, how you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I tell you what, man, the weather is just, if it doesn't make people just feel amazing this morning. I got up, me and the dogs went up for a nice little morning stroll through the neighborhood. You could just see they were so happy. The air was blowing through their fur, and I was just like, yes, you know. I mean, I don't know if you get out early in the mornings at all, but my goodness.
I love fall better than summer to get up in the mornings. It just feels different.
Yeah, it does.
You know?
Especially when you know there's just going to be a cooler morning. Like, it's significantly cooler. I mean, it can still get hot in the afternoon here in Texas, but I mean, it's interesting how weather plays such a part in how we feel.
Right. It does. No rain lately. It's been nice and sunny. Yesterday, the wind was not that bad. It's just a nice fall day. It's fall in Texas.
Fall in Texas. It's really a special thing. And, if you blink too many times, you will miss it. So definitely take advantage because we are full swing in that blink moment. So because it will come and it will go.
I probably look a little tanner. I don't know. These cameras don't really do justice.
I definitely wouldn't have gone with tanner today, no.
No? I feel tanner.
Maybe in your forearm. Okay, your forearm.
Okay, yeah. So, I have this really awesome, farmer's tan.
Yeah.
I'll
give you that.
Okay, you can see that.
Now I can see the difference.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can see that on the camera, too.
Oh, what's that under your armpit, dude?
Oh, don't. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. So what I was going to say was it's interesting, too, because I've been out in the sun a little bit more. They let me out of my dungeon. I'm not editing video. I'm actually out shooting football practices. I'm probably outside every day now in the sun. And I feel good. When you get tanner, when you get more sun, you start to feel better.
Oh, and there's a reason for that, which we'll talk to in just a moment, when it comes to some of the nutritional deficiencies that our body expresses. But what you're basically figured out is one of your deficiencies is a vitamin D deficiency when they have you locked in your cave doing all of your excess working and editing and nighttime ritualing, the vitamin D levels get low, and vitamin D has been associated with things like depression and just low mood and just not feeling robust, like you want to get up and get going. But, man, being in that sunshine, even in the winter, even in the fall, when the sun supposedly is farther away and we're not getting as much of it, man, it still is a big, big value and impact.
I've always wondered, in Alaska, there are some communities that they go 6 months without sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
6 months with only sunlight. Yeah. I don't know if I could live like that. I don't know. There's no way.
There's no way, to one extreme to the other like that. I think that's where the, terminology birding comes from, where people will, travel to different places to stay in, more tropical type sunny climates, but they'll leverage things like heavy sunshine. Most people feel better in the sunlight, when the sun is. Think about it. Circadian rhythm says when the sun is up, you're more alert, more alive, more vibrant. When you sit in the morning sun is some of the best sun you can get, and it's just a phenomenal place to just feel. The hand of God, man. I mean, the breath, the warmth, the presence, the touch, and it's just a great thing to be a part of, and to be in the darkness. I mean, it's night time, or kind of, oh wow, I don't see as well, and and when you're in those long hours, like in places like Alaska, and they can do that. They have higher rates. Oregon, Seattle, Alaska, higher rates of depression because they see less and less and less sun certain times of the year. And so that's a definite major issue for people.
When I was little, speaking of snowbirding, I always thought that when you got older, because I grew up in Nebraska, so in the winter it can get really, really cold, and there's a lot of wind, and it can be really bad. But all of the elderly people in our community would go to Arizona. So as a young kid, I just thought that was the thing that you did when you got older. you just went to Arizona for the winter. And my grandparent, I always ask my grandparents, hey, how come you guys don't join the rest of the community going down there? They always go, oh, it's because we want to be close to you guys. We love you guys so much that we couldn't imagine spending time apart from you.
Well, that should make you feel special.
I know, right?
And cozy inside.
But I realized as I got older, like that wasn't the case. Not every elderly person moved to Arizona for the winter. It was just that mentality as a young kid.
Yeah, but I have patients that talk to me about doing stuff like that. They have, houses in Colorado in the summer. They leave here because it's so hot, and they'll go to Colorado where it's cooler.
Wow.
And it can go in the opposite direction too, where you can, escape the heat a bit. And right now, I'm planted. I'm rooted right where I am, and praise God, I will bloom right where I'm rooted and planted.
There are little times when I do miss fall, like actually having a fall, because I grew up in Nebraska. We have fall there. We definitely have fall in Vermont. So like I definitely miss those kind of things, but I love being here in Texas because of the weather. It's nice year round.
What was a fall like in Vermont?
Well, first of all, the foliage. If you ever get a chance, go to Vermont in the fall because the everything just turns like burnt orange. It's really kind of cool to see. So we would go up hiking into the mountains and just look out, and all you see is just this color of orange for miles and miles and miles. So like in terms of like the most beautiful thing that you could ever see with your naked eye, like seeing the fall foliage in Vermont, there's nothing that compares to it.
Really?
And it would be cold. It would get colder. So you would wear jeans and sweatshirts, and it felt
harvesty.
Yes, it felt harvesty.
Yeah, and I don't even know what that really means, but it seems right. If it seems like that's the picture you painted, and but again, weather can change. I used to have this sign up in my office, don't blame your health issues on the weather, because I really don't want people to do that.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, the weather does play a part, and so I've had to kind of retract that a bit, because you should be able to handle the changes. You should be able to.
Have you heard people where it's like, oh, it's gonna storm tonight, I can feel it in my knees?
Oh yeah, we call those the human barometers.
Yes, I just think it's funny.
And that is interesting, but barometric pressures make change, and you got to remember, we in some respects are a closed system, meaning we are a big plumbing system. So absolutely, barometric pressure can shift, and the body can feel it, especially if it's close to what we call symptom land threshold. Okay, so I'll try to paint this picture for our listeners. And by the way, I don't even know if I really said good morning to everybody.
No, we just got on this topic. It's awesome. This is how it works.
Good morning. Good morning. We're so glad that you guys are tuned in, as Kurt and I are over here just like, dreaming about foliage in Vermont and burnt orange colorage. And I'm excited that we get to be a part of your morning and that you are a part of our morning. Like, this is a really special treat for him and I, and to just spend time together on the Living Well Show and share life, and every week we get on the show and we share topics from Living Well, because we believe in education around like how you can live better, be better, that you can stay better, that you don't have to just accept this idea of aging as your destiny in a negative way. I mean, too often people blame the aging as a bad thing because they know they're going to feel bad. They're going to have the joint pains. And so, that being said, if I can paint this picture for you, if you were to just draw like a thermometer,
right,
vertical line, and at the top of it, there is going to be a horizontal intersection. And if you go past that horizontal intersection, we're going to call that symptom land. And on that in symptom land, you're going to find issues that you might not like joint pain whenever the weather changes. And what happens in that respect is, like, you have all these burdens that your body is causing you to rise up that scale closer and closer to symptom land, and then the weather is that straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, that pushed you over that threshold. And if you go over that threshold and you have symptom patterns that you were not genetically born with, that could be a runny, snotty nose. That could be, skin rashes. That could be hives when you go out in the heat or take a hot shower. That could be, problems, falling asleep or staying asleep. Or that could be heart palpitations. That could be high cholesterol even. I mean, there's so many symptom patterns that our body pushes off as a means of protecting itself. And some of these, like cholesterol, for example, as a symptom pattern, we look at it as a bad thing. Where when I got in my car this morning, to the point of our conversation of the weather pushed my car tires into a space that it wasn't happy, and it gave me the check engine light that my tires were low. And interestingly, when I go out this morning after the show, odds are my tires will be fine again, because it'll have warmed up 10 degrees, and the system will have balanced itself out. And that is how our bodies should perform. Like, yes, it had a check engine light, but it regulated itself, and then it calmed down, and the check engine light went away within an hour or two. So I was telling a patient yesterday, and this is one of the things that we're going to talk about today, is nutritional deficiencies. I'm still getting people that are asking questions to continue on with what we've been discussing around the idea that nutritional deficiencies are they like to know that their body's talking to them. I told a story last week about whenever I was in my first years of practice, I went to this seminar called Reading the Signs. And it was a whole weekend talking about all the body's cues and tales that it gives off in order to let me know as a health provider, a health professional, that you have a deficiency in a particular area. And so I was sitting with this patient yesterday, and I was probably about 15 people into the day, and it was actually 4:00 in the afternoon. And normally, I don't have a dip per se, but yesterday I had a little bit of an afternoon dive. But it was odd because normally, if a person gets an afternoon dive, 90% of the time it's between 1 and 3, and it's an adrenal glitch. And so this happened at 4. I was like, that's weird. I looked at the clock and I was like, it's 4:00. And I'm dialoguing with this patient, and I said, hey, give me 1 second, because as she was telling me her story, and she's telling me all these symptoms that she was having, she literally just rattled off like 5 or 6 symptoms. It could have been, a little bit of low energy wasn't as high as she would like it to be. It's better than it has been, she says, but it wasn't as as where she wanted it. Well, that's how I felt in that very moment. She said mental clarity, pretty good, but could be better. And right. and I was like, that's kind of how I'm feeling right this second. And I realized, when she asked me, when she was telling me the symptoms, I just go, wait a second, Aaron, listen to yourself. Like, you're resonating with all her symptom patterns. Your body is crying out for a nutrient deficient support system. Like, I need to do something in order to support where the body's breaking down at the moment. So something in my system said, hey, don't just sit there and accept those symptoms as the way the day is going to play out. I mean, heck, I still had 3 hours to go. I mean, have you ever gotten to midpoint in day or mid-afternoon and realized, oh my gosh, how am I going to get to the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock hour? Has that ever happened?
Every day.
Well, see, I mean, and you're a young man.
Yeah. And no, every day I'm like, But here's for me, I get a reboost at like 8 o'clock, like 8 o'clock at night. I'm recharged somehow. I haven't done anything.
There's that is actually a symptom pattern for that. That is an adrenal fatigue sign. That means the adrenal glands are giving you a second wind whenever they should be shutting down. They're confused.
I like it though, because then I can edit into the night.
I know you.
I like it. I like that, where it's like
when you're a workaholic and but the reality is your body.
I know that's not good, but I like it.
Well, no, and heck, I'd be honestly in the same way. Who wouldn't want endless, boundless, energies day in and through the night, and not have to take that 6-hour siesta, that 7-hour, 8-hour siesta.
I get my 12-hour siesta like Saturday. Like that's when I catch back up.
Oh yeah,
it catches me
well,
up
they
later.
have proven too that that is actually an impossible feat. Your catch-up abilities with sleep, unfortunately, will never catch up. And it's another deficiency, right?
Really?
And
Golly, look at all these deficiencies
I know.
I have.
And so these are things that we look at in order to help people see, that their body is indeed breaking down. Now, at 20, how old are you? 27, 28?
34.
Yeah, okay. So you're 34, and so you're still a young dude. And you've got, gusto.
I had to wipe off the screen to be like, yeah, no, I don't look 27. It's 34. Let me get this smudge off.
There it is. Now it came back. I see the hairline. And so at the end of the day, let's talk about deficiencies, because, again, I've had a lot of people interested in how and what the body is crying out to say. And, so first and foremost, do you have gums that are bleeding? We call it, the red toothbrush syndrome. Do you bruise easily? Do you find that have you been diagnosed with some sort of cardiovascular incident or cardiovascular issue like arteriosclerosis, weak arteries?
I'm just intrigued by the gums bleeding, because I've always heard that just because you haven't flossed or brushed too hard. I've never heard it being because there's a deficiency someplace else.
That's exactly. So yes, of course. I mean, just like falling and scraping your leg on the ground, you could totally have a injury. So you could traumatize your gums.
Wow.
and irritate them. But if you find that regularly you have bleeding gums, if you regularly have swollen gums, if you find your teeth ache and hurt and the gums, those are very big indicators, compounded by if you bruise easily. Like if you say to yourself, I don't actually know what I did to get that bruise. That's a sign that your body, because typically if you have a bruise on your arm, it's because you, boom, bang, traumatized it, and you go, oh yeah, I totally was messing around in the garage yesterday and da-da-da-da, and I got one right here, a little scrape. It didn't bruise, but it's a scrape. My son goes, what was it? Oh yeah, I remember that pokey thing poked me when I was pulling out some harvesty stuff out of the attic yesterday, and it even bled for like a little bit, and I was like, oh man. So again, if you've been diagnosed with a cardiovascular incident, if you bruise easily, and the pink toothbrush syndrome is you have a vitamin C deficiency. It's a mild form of scurvy. Scurvy in the olden days was something that the limey, the mateys, the people on the waters. That's right. And Lyme's syndrome. And so what they would have is limes, citrus, on the ships, so that they could, suck some of the vitamin C out of the citrus in order to balance out their issue in their body. That the issue around vitamin C that I find so fascinating, because we live in a culture today where people are dosing heavy loaded doses of vitamin C in the form of ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is the molecular compound that FDA has said is legal ascorbic acid. But what you don't know is that ascorbic acid could be a coal tar derivative from the street. That stuff that they're putting into the cracks in the street, that coal tar, that hot, molting yuckiness that, they used to put tar and feather people, has a molecular component of vitamin C in it. And they can use that molecular structure and put it in vitamins that you might be taking, and your body can tell the difference between coal tar and vegetables. And that's one of the things that we want to encourage people to do, is simply like, which foods can we eat more of that can help get our vitamin C levels up. Now, we have to realize that any of these deficiencies that we're discussing and talking about could be an issue of quality. It could be an issue of, is it organic or not organic? Was it locally raised or not locally raised? If it, is the soil that you're buying your farm crop from healthy and rich with nutrients, or is it something that hasn't been taken well care of, or they're using synthetic fertilizers in order to grow these crops? So that's one area where deficiency comes in, because we know, according to Bernard Jensen and my friend Mark Anderson, who wrote The Empty Harvest. It's a book. It's a great book. First 47 pages tells it all. The cover says it all. This beautiful array of gorgeous produce on the cover. I mean, the most exquisite that you can imagine. He did a great job putting time, money, and effort into this picture, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, he black and whites it, and for when I picked the book up, I was like, why would he do that?
That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. But his point was, and you learn this in the first 47 pages, is that the soil is so devoid, like it has no nutrients in it comparatively to 100 years ago, that the equivalent of a cup of spinach 100 years ago to a cup of spinach today would be 65 cups today is equivalent to 1 cup 100 years ago. And that's because of the nutritional deficiencies in the soil. So and that makes sense. The produce can only give you what was in the ground in the first place.
Right.
So that's one area of deficiency. The other area of deficiency where you could have the best quality food, and now all of a sudden you're not digesting well. Uh-oh. Remember, my friend Bob Marshall up in Austin, God rest his soul, he said that, if there's something that you take care of in a human, in a person while they're aging, is take care of their digestion, take care of their stomach, take care of their small intestine's absorption rate. Why? Because if they can't break it down, they can't absorb it. If they can't absorb it, they can't use it. And your body digests food in the stomach, mouth and then into the stomach, and then it absorbs that nutrients into the small intestine, and then your body assimilates what it can use, and it gets rid of, excretes what it can't use. And that's how digestion should work. So one of the things that affects people's digestion system is stress, S-T-R-E-S-S. Oh, what a terrible thing. And most people today are what? Stressed. 100%. I mean, the average person that comes in, I can ask them, hey, 0 to 10, ask yourself this right now as I'm asking this question, to the audience, if you will, is if you have a 0 to 10 scale, where's your stress? Where's your stress? And if you're stressed, where's your stress, Kurt? Let's see. Maybe you can answer. And maybe poll the audience. Is there any questions out there? Is there any comments, people saying anything?
Just hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
So far.
Okay.
So far. But I would like to hear.
Throw their numbers out there into the stress bucket. 0 to 10. 10's the worst you can imagine. 0 is no stress at all. And there's no judgment here. But let's just play the game for a second.
Yeah. So for me, it depends. It changes. So I may be a 10 on a Friday night when we're doing Friday night football, or I may be like right now, I'm like a 1. Maybe a 2.
Well,
remember, 0. I don't have any stress right now.
Yeah, because you're with me.
Well, yeah.
I just have that effect.
That's it.
Just to calm
100%
people. It. Yeah, of course it is. So the idea is and whenever you say that remember that book I told you about a few weeks back, why zebras don't get ulcers. Remember that story?
I do remember that.
And so you have a momentary rise in stress in order to perform at your best and to do what you need to do in order to make your occupation work for you. And the football is very fast paced. Cameraing a football or sporting event is a very focused event. You got to be on your A game. Right, I'm on the radio right now, and so I need to be on my A game right now. Now, I don't really have a lot of stress because I'm comfortable with the material. But man, if I was in front of a board meeting, or if I was in front of a group of people and they were drilling me with questions I didn't know answers to, at some point I might get a little bit sweaty armpits. You know what I mean? I might get a little bit agitated or restless, or my blood pressure might rise. I mean, these are those signs and symptoms. So right now I'm not necessarily under stress, but I would say that I'm still hovering right now around a 5 because I'm performing, right? I'm in the game. But what do we got any numbers? Anybody?
Not yet. I'm
right,
checking. I pinned the comment. So if you got it here, if you're watching, we want to hear what's your number of stress.
Yeah,
right
0
now.
to 10. So so if a person is a 7, 8, 9, or a 10 on a 0 to 10 scale, their digestive system is altered. They're not performing or digesting at the level they need to be. And we always tell patients that you need to intervene when you're a 7, 8, 9, or a 10 because you can't run there day in and day out because a lot of times people will come in at an average 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, obviously, some people might say even higher, and those people for sure. When you're a 22 on a 0 to 10 scale, that's a problem.
Yeah, Tammy Rodriguez just said an 8.
Yeah, so we got to interrupt that cycle. And when we're a 7, 8, 9, or a 10, we come in and we help the digestive system by helping the stress management system. And so, again, you could eat the best foods and not digest it, absorb it, and use it because stress is high. So we have to understand that there are 2 factors, devoid soil that cause deficiencies and a lack of ability to digest efficiently on our end, in our bodies. And so easy things to get your vitamin C levels up, as we're discussing that right now, is, eat just vegetables, all of the colorful rainbow. I mean, we've got cauliflower, tomatoes, eggplant, bell pepper, peppers, potatoes, and then, of course, fruits, citrus, plants. We look at the green leafy vegetables even have, vitamin C components, but not the ascorbic acid that, FDA says is legal tender for vitamin C. The thing going back to the limeys is you have to appreciate, why do they have to have limes? I mean, why can't their body make the vitamin C? What was depleting them so? And that's just the answer, is their body does not make vitamin C. I call it the sinner's curse. When God kicked us out of the garden due to sin, he said we would have to work the ground, toil the ground to get any value out of the soil and the plants of the ground. And what he was saying is there's things in the soil, there's things in our environment we're going to have to go and get. We're going to have to forge. We're going to have to find in some capacity. And vitamin C is a substance that we do not make in our bodies. We have to find it, forge it, get it. And so we use a whole food Cataplex C product, a camu product, goji berries is another great one, to get vitamin C levels completely, their whole complex up. And the vitamin C complex I'm speaking of is tyrosinase, vitamins P, K, and J, cofactors, flavonoids, bioflavonoids, ascorbic acid, and factors that make up the vitamin C complex that we haven't even discovered yet. And so you can't just rely on always a supplemental form unless you know it's from a whole food source and it has that full complex in it. So we only use a ascorbic acid type, bioflavonoid type of product if a person might be sick in the moment, but it's definitely not a wellness vitamin. And so we all, want to make sure people are doing, healthy activities, having lemon ginger tea every day. A lemon ginger tea, putting a real lemon, ginger pieces in hot water and letting it steep. You will extrapolate out blood quality building nourishment from vitamin C. And this is something easy people can do. One of my close friends, Renee McCain, she does this every day. I rarely have I seen her ever without a jar of ginger lemon water. Every day she drinks it, and that is good for lymphatics, it's good for blood flow, and it's good for getting aspects of that full complex C in her system.
So I've seen these because they have those diffusers with the water, right, where you can put different fruits and stuff like that in the water and it diffuses into the water. The different types of fruit, what you're saying, the different types that you put in there can have a different effect. Is that what you're basically getting at?
Well, yeah. So different fruits are going to be more concentrated in different types of vitamins and minerals. And in this case, we're just talking about ginger and lemon in order to stay in the vein of the vitamin C conversation. So again, if you're bruising easily, bleeding gum syndrome, cardiovascular disease, these are signs and symptoms. I don't know.
That one blows my, now I understand.
You're going to go, wait, it's not just me brushing too hard. So what if you...
who says that I have bleeding gums, first of all? I take care of my teeth.
Well, I hope so, because those are the only pearly whites you got.
Wow.
So let's move on. Do you experience tiredness and fatigue often? Well, who doesn't? Right on. Do you have unusually pale skin? not your arms, Kurt. Don't be looking at your arms.
My farmer's tan.
That's right. Do you experience hair loss or thinning hair?
Check.
I'm just saying, do you experience shortness of, well, no, not that one. We'll do that one in a second. Yeah. And do you experience shortness of breath going up and down stairs? So who doesn't have some of these things? I've seen some of the elderly population struggle to get out of a chair, even, or walk to the mailbox and back. These are signs of an iron deficiency. Iron, oh man. Well, interestingly about heme iron, you have to have, again, very good digestion in order to cleave iron. Iron is what we call an inert substance that your body in the stomach has to cleave, correct, make better, make fittable to our body's needs, and it customizes it. Your stomach acids customize the iron mineral in order to be used. Take it from something that the body can't use, inert, to something the body can use for life. The red blood cells cannot be made without iron. And so you will see things like unusually pale skin, or tired and fatigue, or difficulty with hair loss, or hair thinning, or tired going up and down stairs, tired going to your mailbox, just in general always tired. Like, you're just always pushing yourself like, I don't know how I'm doing this, but oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I can barely even see out of my eyes. I'm like squinting out of one eye to make it less, painful to use two eyes. I mean, these are signs of, this fatigue, and iron is the culprit. And so we want to make sure first that we maximize your digestion, but we want to look and make sure that you don't have abnormal, anemic patterns.
It's interesting. So one of the things that we're doing for Friday nights, is setting up all these cables, all these cameras, running and whatnot. And it's interesting. The stadium at Texas City, like if you want to get in shape, like you run the stadium, running up and down those stairs. The other stadiums aren't as bad, but it feels like that one just steep, and there's like little tiny steps.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Like it's hard on your body,
especially
after
if you're
running
toting cables and
stuff, right? But it's interesting. The first time we did it, I was really exhausted.
Right.
The second time, not so bad.
That's right.
The third time was exhausted again. So it's just interesting that that
maybe,
it could have been.
Maybe you were coming off one of those weekends where you didn't get some of that quote unquote catch up sleep.
Right. And so it's just interesting.
They were locking you away in that cave, and you weren't getting that sunshine.
As you're talking about
talk to your boss.
The iron, I am talking about like some of those deficiencies. It's just that may be one of those reasons where maybe that workout was really difficult one day, where it wasn't difficult the day before.
And absolutely, like if you're like a female on their cycle has this a lot, because a female cycle they lose blood once a month. So because of that loss of blood, they have to be more mindful that maybe they don't have a full-blown anemia, a diagnosable issue. They have a patterned anemia, meaning every time the cycle hits, they develop a lower blood count of red blood cells because they lose the iron. They can't manufacture those red blood cells quickly. They lose the oxygen capacity, and then maybe they also had stress in their life compounding it. Maybe they got bad sleep. You start compounding things. I noticed, what you were describing at first sounded very normal, like adaptation. The first time was hard. The second time was easier. Then it got to be where it was very easy, but whenever you have that cycle of hard, easy, hard, easy, easy, hard, those are a product of, if you were to pattern out your day, your life, your week, you would probably find that Thursday night you need to make darn sure you're going to bed on time.
Oh, there's no chance.
Right. You see what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
It's like, it'd be like performing. How do you get ready for a test the next day? Is you make sure you go to bed early, you eat a healthy breakfast, you don't eat, a big pizza cheat meal at 10 o'clock at night the night before. That's going to kind of keep your digestive system alert, your blood sugar too high. I mean, you want to make sure that you're doing the things that are supportive of a restful night of sleep so that you're ready for the hardcore workout the next day running up and down stairs.
Going back to the cycle thing, I always thought it was interesting for women athletics, where I remember even when I was in high school, my cousin was a senior, was competing to go to state in track and field, and was cycled and didn't perform at the level that she did all season long, was winning all season long, districts hit. She didn't qualify for state because of that one instance. It was just interesting to me.
No, but look, that's – and so now watch this. Had she – and I don't know the story.
Right.
She could have had the best coaches and the best team around her, and she would have been supplementing like a crazy woman, and everything I'm about to say is null and void. But that oftentimes isn't the case. Oftentimes, had that person been under the care of a professional that knew, hey, we've seen this pattern in you before. We know that the games are coming. We know that you got to be at your best. So we're going to do the lifestyle things, but we're also going to go ahead and support you based on, because I have every female, that is cycling or not, that are young to middle aged. Like I have them track their cycles on an app called Clue. It's a free app. I know they have a paid version, but the free app I can leverage and use to help a person understand their cycling pattern. And they can ask all the Dr. Chapa questions, how their bowels move, how their skin is oily, do they feel spunky and ready to rock and roll, or are they like down in the dumps and just want to crawl under a cover and not come out and live in that cave?
Right.
I can ask them, about their body habits during the whole 30-day, cycling season, between 25 and 30 days or so. And interestingly enough, what I discover is patterns. And if I had a patient like that under my wing, I'd be like, okay, you got a competition this weekend, you got a tournament this weekend, you got the games this weekend, you got to be at your best. Your cycle is going to be when? This weekend. Okay, we're going to start loading you up on minerals, and we use a product that is loaded with beef liver, that's loaded with good heme iron that the body can use and leverage, sweet potatoes, in order to get the iron levels up in such a way that we can outperform the deficiency coming with the cycle. And that's what we would do. I have patients in their comments, it says, on your cycle, double down on uterine support, double down on liver support, double down on iron support, and maximize that blood quality. Because if the blood quality is where we need it, they don't have those symptoms. And that's cool. So some good natural sources of iron if you are dealing with shortness of breath, if you are dealing with hair loss or hair thinning, if you are dealing with pale skin, if you are abnormally pale skin, I mean, for those gingers out there that have just really white skin, might not apply. But if you experience tiredness and fatigue often, and you like liver, best source ever of heme iron. Your body loves liver for its source of iron. Oysters and clams. Now, I'm not quite sure who actually discovered that they can pop open an oyster and just like lick snot out of it and call it like, that's delicious. But man, oysters are rich in protein, amino acids, zinc, iron, very robust, easy, healthy calories for a person to consume. Clams, grass-fed beef is a great one. Looking at eggs, obviously organic, farm-raised, locally purchased, supporting your local farmers and your local chicken.
Not corn-fed beef.
Ideally not, because the cows were not designed to eat grain. Okay, and so they were, however, designed to eat grass. And in the olden days, whenever we were looking at cows that farmed that lived off the grassy lands, they had higher, richer meat in omega 3s and 9s. today they're higher and richer in omega-6s, which omega-6 isn't in and of itself a bad thing. It just needs to be in what we call a healthy ratio. When we do an omega quant test in our office, and if you've never done it, I mean, for $70, you can find out what your omega level ratios look like. Omega-6 to omega-3s should be a 6-to-1 ratio at a bare minimum. But in our culture, it's about a 35-to-1, which means that when you have excessive amount of imbalance, omega-6 to omega-3, you are inflamed. You are prone to injury. You are prone to headache. You are prone to your body wearing out faster than if you were in that ratio of 6-to-1 or 4-to-1 of omega-6 to omega-3. So again, it's not that omega-6s are bad. It's just that when they're excessively out of range, they're pro-inflammation, meaning they are producers of inflammation. So like the wind blows, you suck in some air and it inflames your tissues in your nose. Histaminic responses, oxalate reactions. The body just hypersensitive to different foods, and it shouldn't be. Those are those types of indicators. But absolutely, you want a grass-fed animal if you're going to eat it. Now chickens, they can take that corn, they can take the seed, they can take the little worms out of the ground, but you still want them pecking around on the ground. You don't want to be feeding them a bunch of synthetic nutrients, because guess what? I got patients. They can't do soy and they can't do eggs because oftentimes the chickens are fed soy-based additive foods. Whoa! How in the world can you be that sensitive that the chicken meat is obviously contaminated with soy from what they eat, because you become what you eat, right? The eggs are contaminated, and all of a sudden now you're having these negative responses, and if somebody tells you, oh, you're having a soy allergy. Oh, I'm sorry. Because you're having a soy allergy, you got to get off soy. But then the symptoms don't go away. Oh, it's because they're eating eggs. The incredible edible egg now is a poison to them, because the type of egg they're buying is got this synthetic garbage in it.
All I'm thinking about right now, Dr. Chapa, is me like a chicken nugget. Because you are what you eat. So I'm just thinking of me looking like a chicken nugget.
Yeah.
The dino nuggets.
I'm sitting back in my chair and thinking, you said it. You said it. Uh-huh. Okay. So here's some vegetarian sources of iron. Pumpkin seeds, oatmeal. So those there's some other ones too. I just drew a blank on what they were. Darn it, I had them. Anyway, okay. So there are some. Of course, iron. Hello, spinach green leafy vegetables are a big one. And so they're not. These have to be broken down really well. So you have to have very good superior digestion in order to maximize the vegetarian blends. But at the end of the day, if you don't like some of these products, guess what? We have supplemental forms of it as well that are whole food based, that are going to give you the quality of iron you need. That even if you don't have adequate digestion, we can help make sure that you're able to maximize absorption. And that's an important thing when we're looking at iron deficiencies. So again, if you're having issues of fatigue going up and down stairs, generalized fatigue all day long, mental clarity dysfunction where you just can't think clearly, your hair is falling out, your hair is thinning, you feel like your skin is abnormally just doesn't look right. You don't have that healthy look. You look white as a ghost, and it's not because you haven't been outside. These are signs, again, of iron deficiencies. So what about symptoms like poor night vision, or dry skin, or you have slow wound healing, like you get a cut and it takes forever to heal?
I have a question about night vision.
Yeah.
Night vision.
Yes.
No, at night when you're driving, am I the only one that has the lines when you look at lights?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. No, you're definitely not the only one.
But is that normal?
No, you should not see halos around lights. You shouldn't see
star effects. Is it stars?
Yes. Remember Starry Nights? I think it was Van Gogh. Was that Van Gogh? Man, I can't remember. I think my wife would know because she's an art history girl. But I mean, that painting actually was a a conversation piece of our weekend recently where he was consuming this herb that his doctor was giving him that was thinning his blood, that was causing a vitamin A deficiency, that was causing him to see blurry vision in the lights and with those little lines in it, and he was drawing exactly what he saw, not exactly what was. Because people that can see clearly can obviously say that starry nights that's not how a star looks in the sky that has a bright middle with a halo around it.
Yeah, I hate driving at night now because I feel like I see any red light, it's like a star.
Yeah, that is a vitamin A deficiency. So again, back to you have a symptom of deficiency at your 34 years of age. And so this happens to people all along their lifespan, and we just chalk it up to, well, this is normal for me. Or we chalk it up to, I don't really know what to do about it, so I'm not going to do anything about it. Instead of asking the questions and finding people that know, and we've got to get people involved in this conversation. Like, okay, if you're a slow wound healer and you see weird things around lights, your eyes are dry all the time, that is an indication that you have, or dry skin, a vitamin A deficiency. So we've got a potential issue on our hand. Is it a deficiency, or is it an actual organ malfunction? The liver is really rich in vitamin A, so you can imagine one of the foods that we got to get into is liver, and then we look at the liver from a perspective of health and function and vitality. If the liver is congested, so what am I a big fan of? Detoxification. What am I detoxing? The liver. I want to make sure that the liver is performing at its best to all the pathways, phase 1 to phase 2 to excretion. I want to get rid of fat-soluble compounds that need to be excreted through the water-soluble ports. And the only way to do that is to make sure that your liver is optimized. And so we can help people optimize liver function by getting simply their vitamin A levels back up. And so if we want to look at, people know that beta carotene is good for the eyes, but it's really retinol, the active form of vitamin A. And so you can't just rely on beta carotene supplements to get your eyes back in alignment or your skin back in alignment. Or if you've heard stories that of prenatal care is always worried about high vitamin A levels because it can cause birth defects in children. So women oftentimes will come in and they're worried or afraid to take prenatals or vitamins that potentially could cause vitamin A toxicity. Well, that's because they're taking the wrong kind. If they're taking what God intended, like, you're not going to get too much vitamin A from fish oil. Good luck. Number one, it's the active form. Number two, so the body can use it. Number two, that the fats of the fish will prevent you from overdosing on it. Fat has a built-in satisfying effect on our bodies. If I give you an 8-ounce steak, you're more prone to be full after that 8 ounces than if I gave you a 42-ounce popcorn and a 32-ounce Coke, and you go and suck those things down, and you could go, I could get me another half Coke and another 15, 20 ounces of popcorn. Heck, I might even be able to do another 32.
When you do 50 hot dog eating challenge.
Yeah, well, that's a different conversation altogether. I can only imagine. I like to see the aftermath, what their bodies do like the next 5 days.
Who is that guy that keeps winning?
I don't know.
Every year.
It's some little skinny Ronnie dude that can. He's
18 years
in
a row.
Become what you eat. He is a hot dog. But literally, HOTDOGG, baby, hot dog. All right, so we've got lamb liver, we've got chicken liver, we've got fish oils, very good. Salmon, fantastic source of vitamin A. Of course, butter, fantastic form of active vitamin A. And people are afraid of eating butter or ghee. Well, no, just make sure that you're getting an organic, quality, high quality source of butter. Go find you some Amish butter rolls. Go get you some of the Kerrygold butter. Get you something that you see that says it's organic. Yeah, pay a couple extra bucks for it. And because the fat is where the toxins are stored. So if you're buying poor quality butter, you're getting possibly toxic fat as your topping, whenever fat can be a blessing to you, you're buying the rancid form or the garbage form or the one contaminated. Sweet potatoes are rich in vitamin A. Kale and radishes, carrots, of course, bell peppers, Swiss chard, fantastic forms. So vitamin A, again, if you got dry skin, if your night vision issues, those are indicator lights, big indicator lights, or if you've got signs and symptoms of issue in the liver, high liver enzymes, if you've got high cholesterol, if you've got high triglycerides, these are other factors, biochemical markers that indicate that the vitamin A levels are not where they need to be. So what about more symptoms? I mean, the list is long. I mean, people are curious about what the body's telling them. Do you have a hard time focusing? Uh-oh. Do you have a weak immune system? Uh-oh. Do you have stubborn face acne or body acne? Or do you have a weak digestive immunity?
I keep jumping to these scenarios where I think you're going to say, do you have a stubborn face?
Well,
but then you added acne, and I'm like, I'm so glad he added acne, because I would have been like, do I have a stubborn face? I started thinking that. I'm sorry.
I mean, I don't know. We could poll the audience. The audience could help us understand and see,
do I have a stubborn
do you
face?
have a stubborn face? But these are signs and symptoms that, or white spots on your fingernails, that zinc is an issue. And so if you have white spots on your nails or a weak immune system, acne, stubborn acne, that kind of won't go away very well, a weak immunity, or hard time focusing, zinc is a number one mineral that we want to look at. And people don't realize zinc has over 300 different jobs in the body. So, wow, zinc. We have a simple test in our office, as a little zinc taste test, and we can have somebody swish it around, and if they taste nothing, they have zinc levels are low. If they taste something, their zinc levels are high. Now, it can be, a misconstrued test if they're smokers, because smoking actually will suck out the minerals out of their body into their mouth to neutralize the acidity of the smoke, activate their tonsils and immunity, and so they'll actually taste a bitter substance, and it gives them a false safe that their zinc levels are where they need to be. We always know that if we're doing things that are toxic to our body, that we're going to have a higher need for certain minerals, and zinc is one of those minerals.
We did the zinc test one time. It's interesting. It's just
it tastes like water for most people. 95 out of 100 people will taste nothing. And that means that people are walking around with weak immunities, weak nails, weak digestive systems. They're seeing their body, again, break down too quickly. And so zinc is an easy thing to start balancing out and working with. And we, of course, I found lately that if I mix zinc, D, C with quercetin and N-acetylcysteine, I can get some of my zinc levels up pretty quickly. I use a product in my office called Q-Force for that. And if you paid attention during COVID, when you put that little package together, the quercetin and the N-acetylcysteine are great for popping popping viruses loose in the liver, so that viruses can't get stationary or settle down into the tissues very deep, and that body can quickly get them out. And then with the C, the D, and the vitamin and the zinc, that comes in and helps upregulate the immune system from deteriorating too quickly and keeping the immune system from being weak. Now it can be strong and purge the virus and knock it out of the park so it doesn't come into our bodies. And so when we look at that product, it's one of my favorites for getting people's zinc levels, Q-Force, back in alignment. So again, foods that are high in zinc. Pumpkin seeds. Oh, I love pumpkin seeds. Watermelon sprouts, very rich in zinc. Again, back to that grass-fed beef, grass-fed chicken, fantastic. Whole eggs that are locally raised and farm fresh, so to speak. Again, they're talking about zinc and foods that can help get your zinc levels back up. Mushrooms, salmon. Who doesn't like shellfish? Like crabs and shrimp. Very rich in zinc. Legumes, and of course everybody's favorite, dark chocolate. Oh yeah. Not only do you get that kind of dopamine hit, you also get some zinc out from it. So what about trouble falling asleep? Oh, the restlessness at night, that people crawl in bed and they feel their bodies aching. They get, knots up in their neck and upper back. If they have, constant muscle cramps throughout the day. I mean, I've talked about it in the past, that it's sad and funny at the same time to watch people have, Charlie horses, because I mean, at first the first time you see it, it's so like spastic that you just laugh at it, and then you realize, oh, that person's really suffering.
My dad
and it's
would
not a funny situation.
walk around in the middle of the night. I remember probably like at least once a month, like in pain, like because he was cramping up.
And God's tranquilizer, calcium magnesium deficiency. This is where we come and we support the body with calcium magnesium. Magnesium and calcium in the right ratios become God's number one tranquilizer, muscle relaxer. And talk about, I take a little bit of magnesium at bedtime, and man, it helps the bowels move wonderful in the morning. It helps the body kind of go into that rest and digest state and detoxify during the night, giving the body a little extra minerals before bed. I'll take something called Mintran to kind of settle my thoughts so that my mind just kind of, I just let it go and I breathe it off, and the body can literally feel alive and vibrant just by helping reduce the mineral load that I've been on my feet all day. I've been awake all day, and it's notorious for people to crawl in bed and to start feeling the agitation in their feet and their calves, and that's because they finally got parallel. Blood is not moving quite as crisp as it was because they're not wiggling, walking around, moving. They're starting to settle, and so they that those minerals, those oxygen, isn't getting down to those tissues as effectively, and it's because their minerals are low and deficient and depleted. And I find that, for people that work out and train or very active standing job on their feet all day, every day, or boots that are real tight around their feet and ankles all day long, shoe coffins, I like to call them, these types of people have a higher demand for these types of minerals, magnesium and calcium. So again, if you've got muscle cramps or upper neck and back pain, I mean, who doesn't come in to a massage therapy session and go, yeah, always carrying my stress, right? That's right. And they can't quite reach it, it's right on their shoulder blade, and they're pointing at it though. And who doesn't, feel better when somebody rubs and works that out? Well, you should do a little bit of calcium magnesium powder before the session. You should do a little calcium magnesium powder coming out of the session in order to make sure that those muscles that are, being cleaned out, also getting rehydrated or remineralized with that fresh nutrients as the blood has been moved around. That's a powerful gift and tool, just sitting right in our back pocket. And I think that people just they don't leverage it well enough. So again, we use Mintran for that. We use calcium magnesium powder for that, and it's just a little chalky powder. It doesn't taste like anything. I just throw a little bit back, give some to my kids even. It works great with fevers. It works great with immune challenges as well, just like the zinc. You've got to make sure that your mineral levels, zinc and calcium, magnesium, and more, are in ratio balance, helping to maximize the vitality of your immunities, and so that your body, when faced with bacterias, faced with viruses, faced with parasites, faced with even chemical issues from the hard waters that we're bathing our bodies in, the chlorinated water that we're sitting and swimming in during the summers, the stuff we breathe in, the food quality, the things we put in our bodies that have metals, chemicals, preservatives, processing involved in it due to industrialization, can create a need for higher minerals, because for every metal chemical that your body has exposed to, it takes 2 to 3 minerals to escort that turkey out the body. So you're losing minerals on the regular. Minerals are getting used up for basic function. And without minerals, it's like having all this wonderful technology and us unplugging it. No good technology with no power is useless, right? And so we've got a big need for minerals to be present in our body so that we can keep the lights on, so to speak, the energy pipes running and moving and flowing healthily, and for all basic functions to continue day in and day out. Because remember, your body doesn't take a break like you might. And so this is just another wonderful gift. So, as we continue this, talk today around nutritional deficiencies, I just remind people that, when you might hear it at first and think to yourself, then this is a lot. Like how do you manage all of that? Well, this is what we do at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, is we're giving people a plan of attack. We're helping them prioritize where they need to focus for the month or two. We need to help them see what, I had a guy call that I hadn't talked to a couple months that had 30 kidney stones passed in the last 2 months. Didn't call me. I'm like, oh, you got to call me. You got to let me know when this stuff happens.
That sounds
because
awful.
we got to a point where, he was doing really well and life was doing really great. So we spaced him out, and but he got dehydrated. I mean, think about the last 2 months, how hot it was. And so his system was on overload. And I suspect that he got dehydrated a few times, one of the number one causes. And, we already know he's kind of got some issues around purine foods, gout-containing foods, gout-causing foods. And so I think that was also contributing to the type of stones that he has. And we had also started, started back cleansing his body of the stones through high-dose phosphorus and carbamide in order to help open up those channels and flush any other sediment and debris that's stuck in that man's poor kidneys out, so that he is not, continuing to suffer. I mean, to have that many stones in 2 months' time is, as you can imagine, it was painful for him. He had a pretty rough one. But again, at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, I mean, we have answers to that kind of stuff. Like if you've got weird ails, if you have weird situations that pop up that you're uncomfortable with, understand you've just crossed over what I drew out earlier in my analogy of symptom land. You've crossed into that symptom pattern place that can be brought down by deburdening the body of bad foods that you're eating. Not enough water that you're getting. You remember, what you eat's important, but what you
don't eat
is more important. So we've got to play that game and look at your lifestyle. We got to look at your stress load. We got to appreciate that the quality of the food is not where it used to be. So, staying in that conversation, how are we going to help people stay healthy all the days of their life and recognize the signs, the symptoms, the pains that their body is crying out, and what can we associate as a fix? Because oftentimes, too often, it's a fix that we can remedy very easily, very effortlessly, with no side effects, that's not a drug, that's not in surgery, and your body is craving it. So we want to teach you how your body is breaking down, why your body is breaking down, and most importantly, give you a solution to how to fix it. That could be food, like we've talked about today. That could be like vitamins and minerals, like we've talked about today. And we can intervene and get all those factors playing in your part so that you've got a 8-cylinder motor running on all 8 cylinders, running at its best. Peak performance. That's the name of the game. That's how we live long. That's how we maximize the vitality curve. And at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, man, that's what I get really fired up about. And so visit us at justlivewell.com. Give us a phone call, 281-554-8600. We're here every week, live in the studio. We also have a podcast where we have all your social media platforms available where you can listen, download, and take an opportunity to share this information with your friends, family, and loved one, because I know for sure that somebody in your world could benefit from it. And just as a reminder, November 12th is coming up, and we've got a fun run that Living Well and Anchor Point Ministries has teamed up in order to just promote movement. If the dude don't move,
the dude don't groove.
The dude don't groove. And so we want to make sure that you're tuned into that and that you're a part of that. And we can get you registered easily if you just get a hold of Anchor Point Ministries and .org, and they will get you set up. And you can waddle across the finish line with Miss Debbie and I, and we're going to have just a lot of fun, teaming up with her in the fun run to health and just what she's doing over there at Anchor Point for life and babies and caring for parents that are adopting kids and kids that have been adopted. It's a special thing. So anyway, I'm excited about what is going on in the Living Well world, and we look forward to more of this great conversations with you, your friends, your family, and your loved ones. God bless you guys, and have a fantastic and wonderful day.
Coming up on KHEA Radio, Riley Clemens, Godsend. You're listening to 99.5 FM, KHEA Radio.